Now, I understand that for various work-related reasons you weren't at Westminster yesterday, but what have you heard about the atmosphere at that meeting of the Parliamentary Labour Party addressed by Keir Starmer? What have people told you?
I heard it was very, very positive. What people heard was a Prime Minister very honest, very clear, making the case as to why we've got to serve the people that elected us and deliver on our manifesto commitments. And that's his primary concern. And he is not going anywhere. And that's a very, very clear message, a strong message to the PLP. But that's exactly what's needed. He is the Prime Minister and the leader that the Labour Party needs right now. I have full confidence in him. We've got to stop those few people that are clearly trying to fall for the division that's being sowed here. Need to get on and remember that the British public have elected us.
Well, I mean, some of those people on manoeuvres, notably the leader of Scottish Labour yesterday, Wes Streeting, Angela Rayner, these people are jockeying for position. They're keen to make their mark. Do you think that in the end we'll look back on this galvanising speech that Sir Keir Starmer made as just something he did to stave off the inevitable?
I think, look, I've served in Keir Starmer's shadow cabinet and as a shadow minister. I've worked really closely with a man that I see who's got a huge amount of integrity and really cares about making sure we deliver. I worked very hard like he did in 8 years in opposition to get to this point of electing a Labour government, and we have one. And we've got to make sure that we are communicating our clear sense of purpose, not just fixing the mess of the last 14 years. That's important. But we've also equally got to give hope and a vision as to where we are taking the country and why the investments and the delivery we've done so far is supporting us to get there.
And yet, I mean, you know what, I'm bound to say this. This fundamentally decent man, Keir Starmer, thought it was all right to give Lord Mandelson that job. It beggars belief.
Well, look, what I would say is what was out in the public domain is exactly the information that he had. What we can't do is speculate as to what extent of information he had. But when the information changed in September, he sacked him on the spot. He acted swiftly.
But Preet, I can't be alone in just finding it incredibly hard to believe that the man who is the Director of Public Prosecutions, a highly accomplished lawyer, wasn't equipped to look at Mandelson, to look at his record and to think, this guy is an absolute wrong-un and I cannot give him this position.
Look, he's accepted that it was a wrong decision. He's accepted and wants to make very clear that his primary focus is apologising to the victims, which is exactly what he did. Leaders have got to delegate and entrust people to carry out decisions based on their values and not play factional politics within that. And every time he had the information available, he sought to get clarity and get the Cabinet Secretary to look into the information. There is a vetting process, clearly, that needs to be looked at. But fundamentally, yes, he's accepted, as a leader would, and as our Prime Minister has, that he is sorry, it was a wrong decision. But equally, he is evidence-basing what facts he had available when he took those decisions. Look,
some people do believe, notably I think quite a few women in the Labour Party believe, that there was just too much of a boys' club atmosphere around the Prime Minister and that probably didn't help in the decision-making about Lord Mandelson. Do you think that might be a valid point?
I think in great organisations, you have got to look at who are the advisors in that role, because there are two women, Vidya and Jill, who are equally the Deputy Chief of Staff.
Who are now the Chief Advisors.
Yes, exactly. And, so there has. But fundamentally, this is about who has accountability and responsibility for what. And what is the direction of that leadership, from the top. And I think Keir is very clear. He's been always consistently clear that we are here to serve and we're here to deliver. And delivery has got to be the fundamental, relentless focus now of government to make sure people feel and see the difference that this government is making locally to them, and that they're, and that's why Pride in Place is really, really important, and policies like that, because democracy is too removed from people.
I mean, I don't doubt there'll be many people listening who actually think, you know what, things have improved. I've got my NHS appointment and I'm pleased with the way things are going. But that information just doesn't appear to be able to be communicated by our current Prime Minister. He's simply no good at that side of the job. What do you say to that?
What I say to that is it's not just the Prime Minister's responsibility to communicate. There's a whole cabinet and ministers, and it's the responsibility of the civil service who are there to deliver for the public to make sure that communication is getting cut through. We equally have got to have, journalism's looking at actually what is the delivery of government. We have got too caught up in the kind of Westminster bubble of what's going on, which many people's lives are not affected by. When I'm out on the doors talking to people, they want to hear about the delivery that they're not hearing because it's not getting cut through in the media, about the difference we are making, the fact that we've got neighbourhood policing, the fact that we're addressing the NHS waiting list, they can get a GP appointment, free breakfast clubs. Let's not underestimate some of these policy initiatives.
I'm really interested then, when you're on the doorstep, are people mentioning Mandelson and Epstein, or are they more concerned about being able to restart their recycling?
Honestly, they want this government to succeed, but they are equally affected about what's happening locally, and they want to stop hearing about the nonsense of personalities that don't affect their direct lives. They want to hear about what is government doing to make the change that it was elected on.
But I mean, a genuine question that I'm sure you can answer. Has anybody in a surgery or on the doorstep talked to you about the appointment of Lord Mandelson as UK ambassador to the States?
I mean, a few people have raised it, but it hasn't been, like I say, it's not what people are talking about on the ground. People are not as interested as we might think. And, they also know that the information that Keir had at the time was out in the public domain. And this is a man who is committed to addressing violence against women and girls, not just as something to say, but actually delivering in terms of policies.
Yeah. And I mean, again, he did say in PMQs last week, didn't he, the Prime Minister, that he did know that Mandelson had maintained his friendship with Epstein after the events, after he had been in prison for those offences.
But it's also been said that Mandelson, lied clearly, because the information he gave suggests that he'd hardly had a relationship. What maintained meant is obviously speculative at the moment because we don't have all the facts.
Just very briefly, do you dread more coming out? We know there will be a release of more information, more files, more messages between various members of the Labour Party. Are you worried?
I take very seriously the information that is coming out. I think all of us should. What we are seeing is, elitist men exploiting vulnerable women and girls, and it is horrific to read some of the stuff we've already seen. Keir Starmer is not mentioned in the Epstein files, and I think it's really important we have a Prime Minister who's got integrity. We've got to back him to succeed. That's what my constituents want.
That is the voice of a Labour MP, the Labour MP for Birmingham Edgbaston, Preet Kaur Gill.
So you're